So taking a look, let's see what we got with the radiator. This radiator simply has a channel in the bottom and a channel in the top. There's no tabs on the side, nothing to grab it with. So what I'm gonna do, we've got a couple of options I think here. In between the strut towers or shock towers, could put a bar from this one over to this one, and then we can do just a flat plate on top of that. The radiator will follow the line of the shock tower. That solves that problem. And then I just got to come with some way off the top of this, probably with this bar, with this one, just like that, and then we'll have the bracket to hold the top of the radiator built off of it. So when this is bolted in, the radiator is held in place. But I could also, I've got the winch plate that needs to go in here, or winch mount rather, so I could do something with it as well. But I'm thinking not. The problem is with the radiators, you don't want to be putting or inputting a bunch of different stresses on them if you can. Chassis is going to flex a little bit, so you got to account for that. But ultimately, I'm thinking if I put the winch plate to it, and it's integral to the winch plate mount, when you're winching, you're going to get some torque to it. If you've got the chassis bound up and then you put the winch to it, you could actually end up maybe popping the radiator where you wouldn't have otherwise. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. But right now I think I'll do it the way I've done it in the past. Just straightforward, simple. We'll put a bar across there. We'll build some small tabs, or maybe just bend the 2-inch plate, flat plate, to be its own tabs, and weld that to the bar, set the radiator down on top of it, and then probably use some conveyor belt remnants in between it just to give it something to slide on a little bit. And then we will build something for the top, and that'll be that. Straightforward, simple, no big deal. So let's get to it. I got my first grinding done, first round on this cross member that's going to go in as part of the radiator mount. Still too long, about 1/4 inch, so we'll be taking half of that down. I'll try to take off about half from each end, and then that way I don't have to dig too deep, and because when you do that sometimes you can lose control of it. One of the other ways I can do it is just grind it flat again and start over. Maybe that's what I'll do. That way I only have to do one end, and then we'll get it back in here and do another test fit. So here we go. All right, I've had 3 rounds of grinding so far, and you can see we're getting it walked in. We're getting closer. This side's about there. Looks like I'm gonna have to take a little bit more off, maybe take these out, we'll see. But I'm not gonna mess with that. I'm just gonna mess with the one end until I get it to get all the way in there. We've got the basic structure in now, and so what we got to do next is I need to get some 2-inch strap to build the base for the radiator itself, to set the height and what it's gonna set on to capture it. We'll have to build some side plates going around the front to back just so it doesn't slide around, and then we will build the top.
The next morning.
So I got the radiator mounted yesterday. I'll show you that real quick. It worked out pretty well. Quick look. So as you can see, the radiator's in. Kept the alignment in line with the front of the shock towers. Just some simple brackets off of the strut tower or shock tower brace. Nothing real fancy there. Just some plate there. Underneath, I'll have to pull the radiator off, but I just used a single piece of 1/8 inch 2-inch strap and made a support all the way down. I'm using some conveyor belt material. It will get, once everything's painted up, I'll glue it to the support itself with some adhesive for weather stripping, automotive weather stripping adhesive, molding adhesive, that kind of thing. It'll work real well to hold that material there. And all that does is just let everything move around a little bit, but not fall apart, that kind of thing. So that worked out well. Got plenty of room behind it for the fan, hoses, all of that. This hose here is going to be a little bit of a challenge. We'll have to come out with a 90 and down, and then sneak it through right above the belt. Probably come out with a 90 there, 45, something like that, and meet in the middle. Have to do some kind of hose connection there to avoid that serpentine belt. I don't want to try to go in between if I can avoid it. I just think too much chance of things rubbing. So that's what we've done, and now what we're getting ready to do. So I'm going to get ready to start working on the front end so that we can get the winch mount built and finish up getting the grill mounted. That'll finish the basics of the front end up. So currently what the owner wants, I talked to him the other day, we're going to come off of these tubes and just loop around and back, just some simple 90s, and then we're going to do that on a second bar above to match down here. We've got the two chassis bars, so we're going to match that, two of them up and around. We're going to French in the winch right here down low, and then we'll have some kind of hoop in the front just for some nose protection. All right, I got everything prepped and ready. The tube was a mess. Had WD-40 on it over the top of rust, so I had to spend some time with the wire wheel getting it cleaned up and some brake clean, wipe it down. Once it's in place, it will be a problem if I don't have it cleaned up now. One of the things I got going on, I did a double check on angles and the front frame rails. The frame rails on that are not 90s. Excuse my sloppy drawing here, but they're actually those rails come in at an angle like this. So if this is where the radiator sits, they're pointed in. It's an 87-degree angle right here. I need to come out shallow of 90 so that when we get it bent and in place, it will line up, and I won't have to try to fight it too much, because the intention is to slug where those tubes are. I'll show you real quick. What I want to do is cut off right here at the line. I'm going to put a piece of 1.5 inch in here. We'll drill a hole or two here, plug weld that slug in there. Then when I slide this piece on, we'll full weld it and slug it there. And that way, or plug weld it at that point. That way we get a nice strong bond. We don't have to worry about it breaking or being a weak point, getting fractures and stuff in it from being beat on the rocks. So that's where we're at. I am set up over here with the tubing bender. You guys can't see it. I measured out. I left myself a little extra. I'm out 7 inches. Now we're going to bend our first bend at 87 degrees. We're going to come out a little bit shy so that we can line up with that angle over there. And then I'll pull the measurements that I need to, subtracting for the play and everything that we've got there, and we'll bend that around as well. All right, so let's get to it.
we've got the first piece cut. Now I just need to cut the thing, but we can see here, you can see it's even. We're right there. The table's just slightly off as well. So, lengths are the same. Distance is pretty darn close. So now I've got to cut these off here and sleeve them. And then drill them, plug weld them, all that good stuff. Once all that's done, then we can put that piece on there. Then we can do the center supports for the winch, get the winch mounted, and then we can start looking at finishing up the second bar and getting all the center supports for it done. The divider bars, whatever you want to call them, spacers, standoffs. And then we can start cutting apart the grill to fit the grill over the top of the winch.
Alright, so now what I need to do is drill some holes in the sides. Cut my slugs. There's one over there. I got the rest of the tube down right here. Then we need to put it on there, tap it in, and weld. Alright, so I'm just going to cut this. I'm not really too concerned about the length, but I'll cut it so that I'm not wasting tube. I'll just get rid of this small bend. So I got the slug cut. I just chamfer the edges. I'm going to polish it up a little bit to get all the coatings. That'll help it when we go to drive it in here. That's going to help it slide. I'll probably take a wire brush inside here too, just to clean it up a little bit. Then I'm going to drill a hole in the top and maybe one in the side.
Let's show you guys where we're at. As you can see, we've been moving forward. We got it in there. Here's the little bend I put in the middle just to draw it in. That helped bring that side in a little bit where I was off. But measuring, we're at 8.5 there. We're at 8.5 there. So we're even from this there. We'll need to clean up these. So we'll grind those down. We'll use the file. We'll get all that cleaned up, sanded up. I have to do a little bit of fill in here. We got some of the front end done. I got the main front bumper tube in. Everything's ground up, looking good. I got the cross members in for the winch. I'll show you that in a second. But show you what we got. So as you can see, all of this came out nice and clean. Can't tell where the seam was hardly at all. You'll never notice it once it's painted and everything. And then we got the cross members in. So as you can see, we got nice tight joints, no gaps in there. I haven't finished welding, and I won't until after I've got all of the rest of the winch plate stuff done, and probably the upper bar. The owner stopped by today, and he wants just to match this bar here going all the way around with a slight tilt back if I can. So that'll involve tightening up these radiuses to bring that back a little bit when I put the standoffs in it. But we'll finish up for the day and see you guys on the next.